Hello and welcome to Sporting Jibberish. I'm Stuart Booth.
I'm Joe Luffman. How are we, Stu?
I'm good. We are in completely separate places today due to the fact that Jack is lazy and can't be bothered meeting.
Yeah. It was completely my fault. Completely my fault. I take responsibility yesterday for that. But anyway, we're here now. We're here now, Stu.
We are here. Right. On today's show, we are going to be talking football as per usual. And a really sad event has just come onto our timeline. Shane Warne, passing of the legend, as you call him, the King.
The King, yeah.
So
the King.
Yeah, we'll do a little bit about Shane Warne as well. But we'll start, as always, with our sporting week. So, Luffers, 6 for 6 as it was last week. How are we this week?
7 from 7, Stu. Again, we went to Ajman, take on, I'm trying to think who we played now. Raptors, yeah, that was it. Raptors, who I don't know a lot of the players by name or anything like that, really, from around the circuit. But a lot of the lads and people within the league say, yeah, they've actually got some really good players. They're probably their results haven't really sort of mirrored what kind of side they are. And when you look back at the results, they've sort of just lost out by a few runs here and the odd wicket or two there. So, they started really well, to be fair. They had a really good power play. It was probably the first time for a few weeks that our bowlers were under pressure. Not that they bowled badly, but, you know, as is the way in this format, the batsmen came at them hard. And so we were under a bit of pressure. But then Brannan, who had a bizarre over, he took 3 wickets in the over, including 2 off the final 2 balls of the over, which completely turned the game because I think they went from 48 for no wicket off what would have been 6 overs. He bowled the 7th, and all of a sudden they were 48 for 3. Huge swing, but did a groin. Now, I don't know if he did a groin bowl in the last ball or if he did it celebrating because he gave it the bit whee like this. So that turned the game. And then we ended up having to chase 170 odd for victory, which, you know, it's a fairly substantial chase, but one that we'd be confident of doing. And we managed to get over the line and win by 9 wickets. We only lost the 1 wicket.
Excellent. And what about you with the batting?
63 not out this week, so that was nice to get over the line for 50 this week.
He was waiting for that question, wasn't he? You could see by his face. He's like, please ask me.
Tee it up and I'll hit it, mate, don't worry. But yeah, so good win. 7 from 7, which has definitely now solidified a place at the top of the league or the pool, whatever they want to call it. We've got a game this afternoon, so the final group game against Masters. And then next week is the semi-final we'll play 4th place. And it looks, ironically, unsurprisingly, it's going to be Exiles, unless there's a massive swing in their fixture and the side TCC below them today. But so it could be TCC, it could be Exiles. We'll wait and see.
So with it being last group game and you've already guaranteed winning it, are you rotating players around today, or have you stuck with we're winning, don't change it, let's keep going?
Well, there's a bit of unavailability. And Clint's not available again, so he's obviously out. And I think from last week, another couple of lads are unavailable. So not necessarily deliberately rotating. I think there's a couple of different players playing. There's a Bharat who has played a couple of midweek games for us, has only just joined. He's playing and looks a very good player, actually, very, very good player. So that's good.
Sorry, just clarify his name again. Was it Borat?
No, not Borat. Bharat. I mean, I do call him Borat. Bharat, yeah. Yeah, he's got no mankinis flying around. And so what Dave will do with the order, whether he sort of gives some, because to be fair, over the last few weeks, not many people have actually had a bat because he's been that convincing. So including himself. So I don't know. It's a tricky one, isn't it, in sport? Because what one side of me thinks that people like Dave and there's Ben and Tina who haven't had much of a bat, yet you think we'd need them going into a semi-final and hopefully a final. Do you give them a go? Or do you stick with what you've got and just, keep the momentum going? So tricky. Don't mess with the game, as I always say. But we'll see what happens. We'll see what happens. What about yourself, mate? You had a good result on Thursday, or not so good result on Thursday? What happened? Tell us.
No, well, the unbeaten streak is still continuing. It's 53 now. I think performance-wise was not our best. We didn't win, but we didn't lose at the same time. Against a team called Safa, who I think very, very English style team. And they just have that mentality, they keep going and going and going. And in the end, it ended up paying off for them because they equalised in the 80th minute, I think. And we just couldn't quite get it over the line. I'm not going to single out individuals, but I think as a whole round team performance, and I said team, I said the full squad, we just weren't at the races. Too standoffish. I think I said this at the time, so the lads know how I felt. Was just looked a little bit scared of getting on the ball. When you really need people to get on the ball and be dominant, we have some really good footballers, but it just seems that when we get on a pitch, what you see in training just doesn't transfer into an actual game time. So we're a little bit shy, I would say, would be a good thing, or maybe we just weren't quite at it as a whole group. We went 1-0 down after probably just like opening like jabs in a boxing fight. Nobody really pushed anything, and then out of nowhere they've gone and scored. I managed to get an equaliser just before half time. Ball over the top, bounced inside the area, outside of foot volley.
Have we got any footage of this or not?
It would have been a decent one as well, because it looped kind of over the top and away from the goalkeeper. So it's a fairly decent hit. I missed the chance before that. It was one of them that somebody plays it around the corner of the defender. I couldn't quite see it because the defender was holding me. So I just kind of like threw my leg out, anticipating where it'd be. It hit my shin pad and went wide. And I just think if I'd been a bit more conviction in it, I might have got there and slotted it home. So I should have really had us 2-1 up by half time. Second half, I hit a volley, but I caught it really sweet and hit it into the ground. And I hit it that hard into the ground, I actually looped over the bar from about 8 yards out. Then got an assist to put us 2-1 up. And then our keeper, who's usually absolutely rock solid, and to be fair, he did make a really good save at the end to make sure we didn't lose. Kind of caught one in his hand, and it just drops in front of you.
Yeah.
But then it was almost like one of them basketballs, where they were looping it around the body. And he just couldn't quite get hold of it, and just like squirming away. It was like he had butter on his gloves or something. Anyway, it's popped out, and this lad just tapped it in. But yeah, it was a shame. But go on, sorry.
No, go on, carry on, go on.
I was just going to say, and the referee.
Yeah, that's what I was going to ask.
I say this with my hand on my heart, was officially the worst thing I've ever seen. But not just bad for one team, just bad across the board. First half, ball bounces up and the lad goes to head. I managed to get in front of him and nick it off him. But when you jump in there and you come together.
Yeah.
So I've won the header. Anyways, give a throw in for their team. So I'm like, I thought I nicked it onto him, but you know what? If they get the throw in, that's absolutely fine. And the lad's gone down holding his shoulder, like I've hit him hard or something. And it wasn't anything like that. Anyway, they've come on to check he's all right. He's all right. He gets up. Referee's gone, free kick. I'm like, what? You give a throw in? He's like, yeah, it's a free kick. Right, did you blow your whistle? No, I didn't. Yeah, I blew my whistle. I mean, you didn't blow your whistle. Anyway, it's just consistently bad like that all the way through the game. Just wouldn't give decisions. They should have had a stonewall penalty. And I was stood in the area, and I think we were 1-1 at the time. And this lad's hit like a cross shot, and our lads jumped out like this, and it's fully hit both hands. And I'm stood in the area just going, oh, here we go. Wait for the whistle to go. Penalty. And every single player on their team is screaming for it. And I'm just like, this is it. He's giving it. He's not giving anything. He's carried on playing. And I'm just like, I don't know. And their lads have just lost it, going absolutely berserk. But officially, worst referee I've ever seen. But with teams like that, they're known for just continuously battling, right through to 90th minute. I just think that we had opportunities to put them to bed, or maybe even if we just, if we'd moved, I think Gaffer said we had too many 6 out of 10. If we'd had a few more 7s out of 10, we could have finished that off and won 4-5-2. But I think you look at it, you learn from it, we move on, we're on to next week, and we're still unbeaten. So league title still in our hands. Yeah. The first and second drew, so with games in hand would still put us top. So everything's still up to play for. I think 8 games left now, so win all 8, win the league.
Win the league.
It's as easy as that.
good effort. Probably before we move on from sporting, we ought to mention our cricket boys at school. Both sides go into a week of semi-finals.
Yeah, so cricket out here, we've got tend to be quite a strong group of players. They've been playing really well lately. Jack's been taking the 19s. They've qualified in the Dubai schools competition, which is almost like all the British curriculum schools, into semi-final with, if we can get the 11 out we want, with a great chance of winning that.
Well, I've changed a few exam times for some of our senior players so they can play. It has its advantages when you set the timetable.
Excellent. So yeah, they've got a really good chance. And then the 15s who we're treating, and we've gone into a different competition to start with. This is the one that I take. Is we enter the competition just as like a pre-season comp, not expecting to do as well as we have done. It's all Indian schools, bar us, and we've actually qualified out the group, and we're in the semi-final on Tuesday. And again, we could cause an upset if our better players perform and their best player probably doesn't have the game that we expect. The fact they've made it semi-final is a massive achievement anyway. And if they manage to make the final, it would be probably one of the biggest upsets ever in our cricket days.
Yeah.
But I think really for them it was just to get into this tournament to then start the competition that you're playing in, which starts the week about 6 days later. So that's the one we really want to get in and win. But semi-finals, if it could be a possible final position. So yeah, good luck the boys.
Go the boys, go the lads. Yeah, definitely.
Right, we will move on to the football. So we've had a bit of a mixed week. We'll just quickly. There's only one team I want to cover it in the FA Cup, because there was FA Cup fixtures midweek.
I don't know what happened in that.
And that's Middlesbrough.
Oh, there we go.
Only simply because they've had two almighty giant slayings, and you're just thinking, wow, could it be? Because Middlesbrough have a little bit of history of doing O'Kane Cups.
Yeah.
So I just wondered, and before the draw was even made, I was like, I wonder if Borough just get a nice draw. They could be into the semis, in a one-off game in semis, they could make the final. And what achievement it'd be for a team that beginning of the season were languishing in the Championship and not really doing very much. Obviously, change of manager has seen almost like a breathing new life into the club, and beat United at Old Trafford in extra times, an amazing achievement. Then to go and beat Spurs, and then the gods of football have gone against them and then given them Chelsea in the next round. So I wish Middlesbrough all the luck in the world. But if you're going to win it, you've got to knock the best teams out.
Exactly. Did they not beat Arsenal as well?
No, I don't think in the FA Cup they have. It was United. It was the biggest.
Yeah, but great result. And actually, to be fair, I think I've not been a massive Chris Wilder fan, but he's obviously got something about him, because he did obviously a decent job at Sheffield United, and he's doing the same at Middlesbrough, isn't he? Turned one or two other jobs down by all accounts, and since he's taken out on, they've gone all right. So, I mean, see what happens.
Yeah,
but Chelsea aren't flying. Let's be honest, Chelsea aren't flying at the minute, so they've got an opportunity.
Yeah. Right, so go to the fixtures from the weekend just gone. Southampton beat Norwich 2-0 in probably just as an expected result. I think the one that we all looked on with eager eyes was how would Leeds respond against Spurs, having lost to United the week before. And Spurs convincingly 4-0. How do you think it went, Jack?
Yeah, it was. I think it was a game that probably could have been 8-4, because Leeds did have some chances, but at the same time, Tottenham did show up, particularly in the front third, showed their class really. Particularly, obviously, Son and Kane again, and the new lad that did well. Going forward, Spurs looked dangerous every time they went forward. Defensively, we're still not quite at it, I don't think. The first goal, I think Conte would be really happy with, because it's his blueprint, isn't it? One win back to the other win back. And to be fair to them, both Sessegnon and Doherty probably had their best games in a Spurs shirt, to be fair. But they had plenty of space because Leeds play that man-to-man. It's like watching a basketball game, isn't it? Or it was.
Yeah.
And they've just got Leeds just haven't got. I think what I would say, and I think we were bantering about it because ironically Højbjerg and Winks probably played two of the best passes in the game, or other than probably Kane's for Son's the fourth goal. But there was no quality in the middle of the park from either side. The amount of time the ball got given away by the centre midfield players or the playmakers was unbelievable. So Leeds were poor. Leeds were poor, and it doesn't surprise me that Bielsa's finally gone because I think it's quite common knowledge that if they carried on playing that way, they would have definitely get dragged in and go down. They might, but interesting appointment when this lad's never been in the Premiership at all. By all accounts, plays a similar kind of style or Bielsa. So who knows what happened there? But yeah, from a Spurs point of view, but again, so Spursy, as people want to say, thrash aside 4-0 at the weekend and go lose to a side lower down the league in midweek. I didn't watch it, by all accounts, very poor.
Yeah, I did watch the Spurs Leeds game, and Leeds' system is very, very strange. So obviously he's put Eiling to follow Son around the pitch.
Yeah.
And then they kind of holding their position. So Junior Firpo for that first goal should have really been covering his wing back, which was it Harrison that was out on the left that was chasing Doherty back.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah.
So Doherty was already ahead of him. So as a fullback, surely Firpo that can see that danger, he should have been helping his buddy out and covering. But he's just kind of tucked into a space of into an area, not doing anything, not even impacting in the game, not even. And I just find it really bizarre, especially when you look back at the goals, and too many people go missing when they're defending. And when your defence goes missing when you're defending, and they just stood in the wrong position and just kind of, oh, well, he's marking him, I'm okay, I'll just stand here. It's never going to work, is it? So,
and I think, I've never been a great fan of Leeds. Didn't get on the Leeds bus last year. Yeah, they were quite entertaining to watch, but I don't think it was particularly great football, or it was a bit gung-ho, a bit scattergun, I think. And then they obviously panned during the game, you'd have seen it pan to, was it Phillips, Cooper, and who's the forward, Bamford, going, oh, this is the big miss. And I just thought that summed it up, because for me, none of those players get anywhere near a top 6, 7, 8 Premier League side. I'm not a Calvin Phillips.
I don't think Phillips could.
I'm not a huge Phillips fan, but I think that sort of simplifies or amplifies, I should say, that they're just not really. They've got to invest, haven't they? And whether there's any money to invest or not, I don't know. But they've got to invest because if they're their 3 best players and they're linchpins, which I know they are, then they're struggling.
Yeah. Right. Other games. Brentford 0, Newcastle 2. I think you had this one down as a Brentford win, didn't you, Jack?
I just fancied them at home against to burst Newcastle's run. I don't think the sending off didn't help, did it? I don't think.
No. But I just think Newcastle are on a bit of a wave now. Joe Linton as a midfielder just looks like a complete different entity. And he's almost. Go on, sorry.
And they say that in training that he's unbelievable.
Yeah, I think I've watched him since he's moved into midfield, and I think whoever made that tactical move has paid dividends for them, because I think he is. He's quick, he's big, he's strong. He's great on the ball. His feet. He just lacks that clinical finish in front of goal. But as midfielder, using all the assets in the middle of the park, getting on the ball more, he's just causing problems for teams. And Newcastle are on a wave now, and I think they're going to be a very difficult team to go and beat. Where Eddie Howe's got them rolling around. Yeah,
definitely. I think as well with other sides, like we talk about Leeds struggling, Everton are still struggling in the league, be honest, and Norwich struggling. They're gonna be safe, aren't they? They're going to be safe. They are going to be safe.
I think so. I think they've done enough now. Crystal Palace 1, Burnley 1. So Burnley seemed to look like they were dead and buried, and then just seem to be picking up points here and there. So great point on the road, I'd say, for Burnley, because Palace have been pretty strong at home, even against the big boys. Have given them a good run for the money. So that's I would say a well-earned point.
Yeah, definitely.
United stole again, 0-0 with Watford.
I did watch that. They were pretty poor, albeit Foster had a great game in goal, as you have to, and Watford just worked their socks off. But actually, if they had a little bit more luck, a bit more clinical in the front third, they could have caused some damage to United on the break, definitely. But yeah,
Ronaldo just looks a shell of himself, doesn't he?
Yeah. Well, I think this could be quite controversial, but I think I've said for a long time that, and not just him, a lot of players who have done so well in the Spanish, Italian, French leagues, and that come and see if you can do it. And the old adage, come and do it in the Premier League. Can you do it on a cold night at Burnley or whatever like that? Because it's completely different. In those Spanish and those leagues on the continent, you pretty much know there's 2, 3, 4 sides will always 99.9% of the time will beat every other side in the league. Whereas our league, that can't happen. You don't know. I don't know what the fixtures are this weekend, but Man City could quite easily go to Burnley today and lose. They could quite easily do it. Whereas, I don't know, Barcelona going to, I don't know, I can't think of it, Getafe or something like that, in the heyday, ain't ever going to happen. They're always going to win. And I just think that Ronaldo now at 38, is he, whatever he is?
37, 38, yeah.
The cold in your bones on it. It was freezing cold on Saturday in Manchester. He doesn't offer much more around the park than being stood up front. And you'd argue, is he actually really a striker? Because still when he was at Juventus, now he could get around the park a little bit more because the game's a bit slower. I think, honestly, Man United fans will disagree, but I think that was the worst thing they ever did at the beginning of this summer, at the beginning of this season, was sign him. Because I think, as much as whether it would have altered Ollie's path, I don't know, because we all know our opinions on him. But I do think that he was sort of just beginning to get a blueprint together with, the likes of Sancho and Rashford either side, and Fernandes and Pogba playing in that. And then all of a sudden Ronaldo comes on board, and that's without knowing what goes on in the dressing room, the egos and all that kind of stuff. I just think it changed the mentality of it. And like I say, I mean, he might go now and score 15 goals in the last 10 games, and because he's got good, isn't he? He is, you can't doubt that. But he certainly looks lost at the moment.
Yeah. Steven Gerrard picked up a vital win on the road against Brighton, which Villa going into that were in a bit of a dip themselves. So good 3 points for them. And then the evening game, so Everton host Man City in what can only be described as the bizarrest not giving of a penalty for a blatant handball. The handball that I talked about at the beginning was just a little bit more blatant than that. But yeah, that I don't know how VAR's not seen it. I don't know where they think the ball's hit. But he's put his arm out in an unnatural position. It's bounced up and hit his arm. It's for me a stonewall penalty, and I think 99.9% of people out there think that. But the referee and the official in the VAR box decided not. So the game finished 1-0 to City, and Everton battled well, but didn't really create a great deal, I would say. A couple of half chances in the first half where Kenny gets in and it's on his weak side and blazes it into the side of the net. And then Richarlison had one where he just hit it right down the keeper's throat. Apart from that, I don't recall Everton really having many more opportunities. But
no, and City again didn't really. Yeah, City didn't really create loads either. It's one of those games. I think it's probably common. It's a common theme, isn't it, in a Man City game now, particularly if they go away from home, that sides just kind of want to frustrate them and quite happy with them to pass it around the box and side of the box and hope that they don't create anything. But the penalty incident is just, I mean, VAR, I don't think, we've not discussed it a lot this season because I think everybody's bored of it. I think any football fan really thinks, has it really improved the game? No, and anybody on the fence think, well, it might have done, when they only have to look at that, because that's what it's been brought in for. The absolute stonewall that, all right, the referee, does he miss it because he's the wrong side of the man or whatever? Fair enough. I don't think he should have missed it, but fair enough. But my goodness me, why the VAR has not just gone in, Stu, it's a penalty, mate. It's as simple as that. It's as simple as that. And fair play to Lampard for just going on a rant. I absolutely love that. particularly when he said, "I've got a 3-year-old daughter at home who would have given that." Brilliant. And it's all right now. See, Mike Riley and the PGMOL have come out and officially apologised, haven't they, to Everton? Well, what use is that? What use is that when, or to Liverpool, what use is that when it probably had a 0-0 written all over it? That's a valuable point for Everton in their fight for against relegation, and it opens up the championship race at top end. And apologies no good 4 days after the event.
Yeah, that's the problem is the impact that game now has. If City go and win the league by 3 points or even 2 points, then people look back to that game and go, that should have been given. I know people say it'll all come out in the wash and it swings and roundabouts, it's football, but Everton would have loved to have got a point there, and Liverpool would have loved Everton to get a point at the same time.
Absolutely.
But Sunday saw West Ham beat Wolves 1-0 in not a really very entertaining game.
A bit dull, wasn't it?
But yeah, good 3 points though for West Ham in their bid to try and keep in amongst that fight for fourth spot. And then we'll cover the Carabao Cup in a second. But the other fixture that we saw midweek was Burnley losing 2-0 to Leicester. The return of Jamie Vardy has brought a little bit of fight back into Leicester, and probably a valuable 3 points to make sure they don't get pulled into that.
I was about to say they needed it. They needed 3 points desperately, didn't they?
Yeah. And then the other game that we're going to quickly cover, and we won't spend too long on because I don't want to think that people are basking in glory, but was Liverpool's probably one of the greatest 0-0 games I have ever watched, in where there was 3 disallowed goals, which sounds bizarre. Yeah, it was 3 disallowed goals. One, and
I think it might have been 4, was it? It was definitely 3. It might have been 4, but yeah, I can't remember.
Well, we start the game off, and Mason Mount has missed an absolute. Was it Pulisic with the header right at the beginning?
Yeah.
Keller's made a great save. Then Mason Mount's missed a sitter. Then he's hit the post at the beginning of the second half. Liverpool have had a few half chances and not really created. Mo Salah was very, very quiet. I thought Rudiger had him in his back pocket, and just hopefully he's let him out for this weekend's game. Yeah. And it was a kind of a to and fro game where there was chances, there was opportunities for both teams, some really good football played. And then we thought we had the deadlock broken when Matip scored, for it then to be disallowed for Van Dijk interfering with play. And I see why it's given. I think it's very soft, but I can see why it's been given. So I can't grumble too much about it, because it's almost like a basketball screening move, where Van Dijk stepped in across Reece James to stop him from getting the back post. The ball's coming to back post, headed back across, Matip's finished it. Really, really lovely move. And obviously Van Dijk's been done for interfering.
I just think that's where, my honest opinion of that is that I'm with you. I think it's soft. I can see why technically it's probably a foul, or it is interfered. But the fact of the matter is, he's offside by a gnat's knob to begin with, and then he's interfering. And this is my point, that is VAR really, have we brought VAR in to really disallow goals like that for things like that? And my opinion is no, because that it's a cup final. Every cup final wants a goal. We've just said, and I agree with it. It's probably the greatest 0-0 cup final that there'll probably ever be, maybe. I don't know. But every cup final wants a goal. And, and then, of course, they can't just ignore it because it's 0-0. I'm not saying that. But that's my point about VAR, is that it's disallowing goals, or it's making decisions that I don't think they need to get involved in. And I've said it before, it's much like some of the cricket things as well, like that. It's not there for things like that. It's there for the penalty incident that they got wrong, yet they're coming and stepping in for little things like that. I just think it's not right.
I just think that they open a can of worms with giving decisions like that, because then in every corner, is it not a penalty when the defenders grab hold of the centre forwards to block the run, and it's a bit of a tussle? Because that's in essence what happened. It was just a bit of a check of somebody. He didn't hold on to him, he just blocked his run from there. And that's exactly what, when you try and go into the area, defenders are always grabbing hold of you to try and keep you within their circumference. Yeah. It's a can of worms. And again, flip this around in extra time. Havertz had, was it 2 disallowed for offside? Which were legit. And then Lukaku's, I don't know how that's not a goal. I think he's onside. And it made me laugh, is it? we take 2 minutes to look at a handball incident, we can't get it sorted. But within like 3 seconds, that was given offside. It looked a bit fishy to me. And that's a Liverpool fan. And I know people will say out there that, yeah, they've drawn the line to his arm, haven't they, again?
But I'm with you. It's just bizarre. And I'm pleased you said that. I don't even think it was 3 seconds. Ridiculous. And again, we really, because that's one of those things, without VAR, if the flag goes up, okay, there's a bit, and Chelsea should be unhappy. Without VAR, a bit unhappy. You look at it, you go, oh, nip and tuck. If it doesn't go up, it goes on and scores, the opposition going, well, was he? So just play on, or just go with the human error, go with the human side of it. There's no need to be drawing lines because they just make it fit the narrative. Basically, he's given it offside, so we're going to draw the line, so we back the official up. If he had given it, if he had let it play and they checked it, I'll guarantee you that the line would be drawn slightly different, so that it was made to look Lukaku was onside. So what's the point?
I think the 2 goals, Matip and Lukaku should have stood. So it means Liverpool would have won in normal time, Chelsea win in extra time. It ends up being a draw, regardless of which way you look at it. It goes to penalties. And they make the strange decision to bring Kepa on for the penalties. And I think the arrogance of the way Kepa went about things, and I still can't understand how the referee never got involved. I get there's mind games. I get you're going to try and get in front of this people that are taking the penalty, but he continuously stood.
Yeah.
And having to be told 4 times every time a penalty was taken to get back in his line to try and get into. You know what? There's a little bit of sweet justice in there that he's the one that missed the penalty, having been nothing more than an idiot throughout the full penalty shootout. The way he behaved, and. Referee's got to have a little bit more bottle. You give him a yellow card the first time or the 4th time you've told him to get back in his line. He doesn't do it again. He gets back on his line. But
completely agree.
Referee created a rod for his own back, and then the sweet justice at the end of it is that he then blazes the ball over the crossbar. I believe it's just landed.
I was about to say it's just landed in my villa. I thought it was brilliant that he lost it because I can't understand that anyway. And we had this debate, didn't we, with Southgate making those changes, and not just Southgate, other managers doing the same thing, bringing on a player to take it. And you said before, getting up to the speed of the game. Yeah, there's no speed of the game taking a penalty, but it's all the other things, isn't it? The crowd, the not blah blah blah, and obviously the commentators knew it was going to happen and I hadn't realised they've done it previously in that Super Cup final, whenever that was, back in the last season or beginning of this season. So, but the thing is, arguably, the man of the match was Mendy. He was unbelievable. So you were telling me that goalkeeper, who is probably in the top 5 in the world, who has just had a blinding game, is not feeling confident that he could save a penalty. And likewise, the mentality of the Liverpool players stepping up to take it, to go, oh my goodness, this guy's been brilliant today. How are we going to... You know, you talk about mind games. That's what it is. When it comes to penalties, it's all in the mind. It's not about whether they can take a penalty or not. It's all in the mind. I'm a big believer of that. I just thought it was arrogance of Tuchel. The irony of Kepa coming on when he refused to come off, was it 2 years ago in the final? And then you're dead right be honest, there were, 21 class penalties. None more so than your Kelleher's goalkeeper one. What a penalty that was.
Yeah, said the wrong way. But I think when you go back to the Mendy situation, you're completely right in everything you said there. And frame-wise, he is twice the size. Yeah. He's like, you're looking at a goalkeeper that fills the goal, and then suddenly you put a smaller goalkeeper in. Right.
Yeah, it's like you say, sweet justice, in my opinion.
He's come back to bite him on the butt cheek there. But
the quadruple's on, Boothie. Your quadruple's still on.
Make sure that City would, obviously at this point, fans would be shouting about this. Liverpool fans have been a little bit more reserved in the fact that we've not even mentioned the quadruple. But yeah, City would be like, right, that's one down. When's the next one? But yeah, it is on. Is it going to happen? Is it? But we keep going. But it's nice to be fine because I think Klopp sometimes, when it comes to English Cups, doesn't tend to think that it doesn't probably hold them in higher prestige as probably us English fans do. So it's good to still be fighting on all fronts. And the fact that we're in the quarterfinals of the FA Cup is a rarity for us. So yeah, let's keep going and see where we end up, because I think it's either Forest or Huddersfield for us away next. So Forest would be an interesting one because it brings back a little romance of Forest in yesteryears, I'd say.
And they're going well, aren't they? Cooper's doing well.
Yeah,
they've
really
well.
picked up. So yeah, really well. Right, so we'll park football and we'll come back and have a little look at fantasy football in a second. But bad news coming through news centres yesterday, late last night, was as Jack calls him, the King, Shane Warne, unfortunately passed away at the age of 52. Was it?
52, yeah.
A suspected heart attack. I'm sure this is not groundbreaking for anybody. Everybody would have heard it by now, because literally Sky Sports News played the reel over and over and over again for the first 4 hours of his passing. So he says that he was in Thailand, away on a vacation, I think, and unfortunately had a heart attack and no longer. But just talk about the man, the legend, the ability that he had with the ball, and could he go down as the greatest ever spinner, or just as a character, probably one of the biggest characters ever in the game of cricket?
Yeah, I think he's definitely. It's really sad news, because as somebody who's the game I love or whatever, he's one of the greatest to ever play the game. There's no doubt about that. 708, I think, Test wickets, 293 one-day international wickets. Speaks for itself. He reinvented leg spin. So, early 90s. His Test career, bizarre, didn't start that great. I think his first Test outing he took 1 for 100 and something or other, but they stuck with him. And then, obviously, the ball that has been played over and over again on those reels to Gatting at Old Trafford, and his first ball in Ashes cricket. And from that point on, for the next 15, 16 years, he was the king. Unbelievable. He talked the talk. He was great with the media. Yeah, he was quite a colourful character. It wasn't all plain sailing for him on or off the field. But I think all great sportsmen have that. He certainly reinvented leg spin for everybody around the world, not just Australians. And yeah, he was larger than life character. He was good in the commentary box. I'm lucky enough to have played with two guys from Sri Lanka who have played against him in Test match cricket. And they said what a great guy he was. Yes, he played it hard in the field, but would always have time to talk to them afterwards. And so Malinga Bandara, who played for us at Woodall, was a leg spinner. So I don't think he ever played a Test match against him, but certainly in ODI, obviously Shane Warne passed on some tips and some advice to him after one of the games. So, and you read and you listen to all those tributes that have come out over the last 12 hours or so, that they all say the same thing, that played it hard in the field, wanted to win, would take sledging or take the gamesmanship to the point where but not overstep it, but then the first thing afterwards was have a beer, and of course there's some iconic images of him. The one in, I think it was late 90s of the Ashes, with the stump above his head on the balcony at Trent Bridge, and then obviously in 2005 when England regained the Ashes, but he was the superstar, probably the player of the series, almost single-handedly dragged Australia through it, and then did do that in 06, 07, then retired. So, yeah, really sad day for Australian cricket. Obviously, also lost Rod Marsh earlier in the week, who was a former coach, captain. Oh, no, he didn't captain Australia, wicketkeeper Australia, and actually played a large part of England cricket as well, Rod Marsh. So, bad week for Australian cricket. Bad week for cricket, yeah, because we're not going to hear his Aussie twang on Sky Sports anymore. And of course, he was a coach of London Spirit, one of the 100 teams, so that they will miss it. Yeah, very, very sad day. But yeah, the king, and I believe that at the MCG, which is his home ground in Melbourne, they've already said they will be renaming one of the great Southern Stand after him. So yeah, shame that we're never going to hear him again.
Yeah, and I think there was also a potential whisper that he could have been in line to take over England at some point.
Yeah, I mean, don't get me wrong, he loved the media, he loved putting his own, dropping things in, but it wouldn't have surprised me if he would have applied for it after this. So England, obviously, in the West Indies at the moment, ready for a Test match series. And then after that, I think they're looking to appoint a full-time coach. So I wouldn't have been surprised if he would have done or already had spoken to people to put his name in the hat. And look, he would have been, because I think if you listen, I've actually listened to a little clip from Ben Stokes actually before we recorded, and he worked with him at the Rajasthan Royals in the IPL. And I think Ben Stokes said that what surprised him about Shane Warne is that even at when he, at 50 years old or whatever like that, and all that he'd achieved in the game, and the fact that didn't really need to coach, didn't really need to be in and around cricket anymore. He was such what we call a cricket badger, like absolutely full of it, very intelligent cricket-wise. So he obviously had a lot about him, and the players respected him. So it would have been a good appointment, I think. Certainly would have been good to look at. But yeah, it's a sad day, very sad day for cricket.
Certainly is. Right, we will move on to fantasy football. So this week's winner, just give me 3 seconds because I have it in front of me now, was Dale Mills with a team called Top of the Clops, who actually scored 76 points. So decent score and well above average. Just having a quick look at the top of the table. Gwyn Williams with Oh Fluffy Sheep is starting to, looks like he's pulling ahead now. He's on 1,832 points, with Jacko in second place on 1,786 points. So Jacko really needs to pull something out of the bag, because right behind him is Ryan Collier with 1,766, only 20 points behind. And then 10 points behind him is fourth place. Yeah, I'd say the top 5, well, first place is out on his own, and then second to fifth, there's next to nothing in it. There's only 30 points, and then there's a little bit of a gap. And if we just move ever so slightly down the table, we'll find in 14th, the one and only Stuart Booth.
Oh, no.
And then...
I don't know where I've got 66 points this week. I know that.
Well, I know Larkin's currently 36th position, the guru of fantasy football, who's just fallen off the planet. And I have no idea where 59th. You are. Matt,
I'm 59th.
Well, I'm down at 86 now. Matty Aldridge's in 86th position, so he used to come on and talk a bit about football. So really holding our own in this. So doing really, really well. And then we've got Jack in 59th position. You've actually jumped up, and slowly, very closely followed by Shrek, who's actually only 3 points behind you.
Well, we'll leave him in my wake.
All to play for in the Luffman household. Booth has just absolutely destroyed the lot of you that come on the show, so there's not really much for me to play for. I think my aim is if we make the top 10, that's a good season, but the Cups will be starting, I think, week 32. Right. Our Cup starts, so that'll make for interesting viewing, just to give a bit more interest in there. But at the end of the day, Jack,
what do we know?